All right, now this topic has sparked today, and I would like to capture this moment and talk about it. When you read this title, and I know it's not the proper way of drinking water. Oh, by the way, this is my new room. I just moved in today. Regardless what you do, whether you go through the police, I don't know why I keep getting one viewers, but hello, hi to one viewer. Regardless what you do in life, and there's no humanity approach, and it's always been the case of I'll take you to court, or you take me to court, or let the court will sort out this all these problems and things like that. And I find it, the story behind this whole thing is just pretty bizarre. Just there's no way out. The only way to solve it in, regardless if you're going to do, you talk to the government or the police department, or perhaps you wanted to do, something outside the scenes, and they'll say, look, there's no other options, but you can take them to court and battle your case in. Taking to court, it's not like boom, you lodge your, talk to your lawyers and boom, you go in straight away. It takes months to get to that stage. Now, I want to talk about this topic very deeply because there's no way out. And the only way in is to go and communicate and say, look, my lawyers are on you. I'm going to get my lawyers on you, this and that. Where there's no justice between human nature to human. We cannot punch physically. Verbally doesn't work. Psychological doesn't really work. Because the moment we lay a punch to someone or you do someone of verbal, you're going to get a criminal record. And nobody wants to get that. You cannot deal things in today's world by doing that. Or in today's world, you have to write some bit of emails, or perhaps, have lawyers to get into the case. There's many aspects of areas. There's always about court, court, court. And I'm not just speaking just on those topics I mentioned, but also in properties as well, intellectual properties, or thief, or things like that. But in this world, you cannot solve problems with face to face in today's world. And it always have to be justice through the court. And regardless, what your situation is, whether you're rich or poor, regardless if you're disabled or able person, or perhaps you gone to the stage, the fact that is it really? There's no, regardless if you're old or not, you're going to get to that stage and you're going to get in and filled in. There's no humanity approach. There's no assumption or assuming or just saying that, look, he's a bit elder, he can't think straight, or, saying, or, he's disabled, he can't think. You cannot use that judgment in today's world. You see, if you go to third world countries, right, regardless if it's a very strong Buddhism or Islamic or Jewish, those countries has very, very strong religions. We use religion power or people power to demand what's right or what's wrong. Or go out there, shout or punch or do things like that. Let the public do their deeds. In today's world, we as professionals, which, yeah, it makes sense, it's by the books, but you spend a large amount of money to go out there and do your way and just get your message across. Now the person may not attend to the court case, or perhaps they do. Either way, okay? And there's no humanity approach or face-to-face approach. If you still still go up to that person, then they'll send you intervention order. There's no approach. The only way to approach is wait for that date and go to the court date. And this is something that like I'll give you a scenario. They rather have the huge difference between third world countries and the first world countries, that we ask professionals to ask and help and things like that. Your problem is the government problem. Your problem is a public problem. And what I mean by that is the Chinese, they always say, 家庭的矛盾留在家庭 which means that whatever's within the family, if there's a family problem, solve it within the family. In today's world, we have a lot of problems, not only just family problems, but whatever problems we rely on the government or perhaps the lawyers. And what lawyers do? They make money, they fight, they don't care you win or lose. At the end of the day, they've got the money on their back pockets. Like I said, regardless if you're rich or you're poor or you're old, you're disabled or things like that, there's no first preference in that sort of order. And when you get to that stage, there's no humanity approach or try to talk it out one-on-one with that. For example, local councils. This scenario is specifically for local council. You cannot talk to them. The only way you talk to them is you have to email them, contact them, email after the emails. You pretty much have to go through email wars until one side meets the agreement or not at all, or find a meeting. And we cannot have this face-to-face human interaction. They will love you to, I know this topic is a bit big, but you have to understand the bigger picture, all right? So, for example, let's just say this. All right, I'll give you an example. Actually, I'll give my landlord example. My landlord, some neighbor made a complaint that there's, regardless if it's too many cars or too noisy, or perhaps too many people living in the house. Now, the council came in and say, look, there's too many houses, too many roomings here. There's no safety standards or regulation, this and that. Look, we need you to get this done by this amount of date. And if you don't get done about this amount of date, we'll slap you a $20,000 fine, or perhaps, or you have to follow these criteria. The criteria is order to change your property into disabled friendly zone, which means that you need to have built ramps, wider doors for disabled person. My landlord said there's no disabled people ever lived in his household. So that's one of the scenario. All right, to you guys. Now, she cannot communicate with them. And what they do is straight away, boom, slap them a letter, boom, this is what you do. In real world, if that was me, I got to mentally drain or take half day off at work and go up to the council or talk to them. And if they don't agree, they say, look, you can go take us to the court and things like that. Most of the time, the local councils wins. They are part of the government, mate. You cannot just go up there and do whatever you want. Or people somehow, taking the police to the court for saying, you're taking the wrong picture of me while I'm using a phone, while I'm not using a phone. And it's everything gone to the stage that is court. Regardless if they win or loss, or regardless of what the outcome is, doesn't matter. Court is a proper way. No, don't use physical violence or verbal aggression. Just go to the court. And it's mentally draining. It's a lot of money to be funded. Hey, if you're a lawyer, hey man, that's better for you. You know how to tackle the issue. But I'm just saying, for ordinary, people like us, the little people, we don't have that, But that's what I'm trying to say. And this is basically what has Michelle Foucault has gone to. Let the professional solve the problem. Instead of having king and queen having there and hanging people or hang to death or chop the head off, it doesn't solve the problem. If it angers the public even more, why don't you have the profession like lawyers or doctors, things like that, to find out what's the best way to encounter this situation? What is the evidence? What is the facts? What is the best way for the treatment? And what is the best way to reduce this large amount of numbers? Therefore, nowadays, we have all these lawyers, psychologicals. You have to go through, evidence-based. You have to go through counsels. If you go through counsels, okay. Then you go through psychology, psychiatrists, and if you have a problem, boom, you fit into the category mental health. It has a bit of depression or a bit of this, a bit of that. If you have that bit of paper, you can get somewhere in life. But if you don't have evidence, there's no human interaction face to face, or any love, or any giving and give out because you're poor or you're rich or you're a minority or things like that. And this is the society that we're in at the moment in the Western world. If you like it or not, that's the way how it is. But that's why we are so controlled, and we're afraid to even go there and make some big mistake or trigger mistakes or try to make something. We try to be courtesy. I'm very sorry. We're scared of one another. Back then, we have this human interaction where A and B can interact together and solve problem together, and maybe share a beer after that and say sorry. But doesn't work that in today's world.